Morning guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Massive drama hitting the timeline once again last night, and two key teams were involved. NRG getting thrown under the bus big time by their former player in Crashies, and also Verno with a fair few words to say after his victory against his former team just a couple of days ago. But also Edward Gaming, the reigning world champions. It's absolute chaos in that organisation right now from so many different fronts. Pretty much the entire team has come up with a statement against Simon, their now former player. Big drama afoot in that organisation. How is that going to fare as they go forwards into trying to retain their title at some point this season? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We're going to begin here, of course, with yesterday's series, PRX DFM. We watched a bit of it yesterday on seeing how it was unfolding, and I mean, look, it was a banger series. It really was a banger series. The poor guy had 70 frags for the loss. That was tough. Art had a real rough series as well. But it was 13-11 in the end, game 1 Ascent. Obviously, we talked about it, right? That, you know, the more rounds that DFM can win on their attack, the better it might potentially look. And so it proved, with PRX only getting 3 on their attacking side, and DFM closed it out 13-11 on the Ascent. The latest, though, PRX won back the other way, 13-7. And then we had, of course, a Pearl overtime where PRX somehow won it in 28 rounds, 15-13. Akame 32 in 19 on the Chamber for the loss, and Jing on the Phoenix basically decided, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to close out the series. I mean, PRX, they were throwing quite bad. But, I mean, Jing decided, all right, guys, we're not going to lose today. And that's eventually what they did. But still, this was an absolute roller coaster. And I feel awful for DFM in the sense that, you know, to lose 3 rounds in a row, to go to overtime, to eventually lose the overtime, even after winning the first overtime round. It was a tough way to lose the series for sure, and that leaves things as follows. So PRX survive. They're now at 1-3. They've clawed their way out into the playoffs, and, well, they play Global Esports, and that is going to be the important series in a few days' time to see which of those final 2 teams will make it. Feel bad for DFM because, you know, they showed just glimpses of promise, right? They showed glimpses of promise, and eventually it's just not quite worked out for them. So that's the way that it looks over there in Group A. Of course, even if you're PRX, if you do make it through, you're still only going to be the 4th seed. And the 4th seed is not exactly ideal because you will start down in the lower round 1 with a big challenge on your hands to make it through. But of course, it's better than not giving yourself a chance at all. Bit of drama as well with Loud. We saw this yesterday. Crew Esports got smoked by EDG, and many people were like, did they throw in order to screw over Loud? Look, I don't believe any of that. But there certainly were some, let's say, interesting replies to Luxo and others' tweets, to such an extent, actually, that Loud came out with a statement today to basically calm down their fans and say, look, guys, this isn't looking good on us. Because Loud say, good afternoon, team. This weekend's loss was our responsibility. We came in with a plan for the year, but it didn't come to fruition. We understand and share our community's passion, and after the round ended, we saw a situation that goes against what we believe is part of the game, with prejudiced comments on player posts and fan pages. We opened a dialogue channel with Riot to be more proactive and prevent situations like this from happening in the future. This is an effort that needs to be spread throughout our ecosystem. Our goal is to maintain a welcoming space free of prejudice regarding the competitive scene. We reiterate that we know we can do more. No one is comfortable with our performance this year. We are continuing to do better. So very interesting stuff. I think that part of it is probably to do with the perception that the organizations need to uphold from the Riot Games perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, these are not franchises in the case that they have bought into the league. Riot determine who their partners are, and you know, if as an organization your fans are going around spouting some crazy stuff on social media and you're not seen to be trying to do anything about it, then maybe Riot would think a little bit about that when it comes to making a decision at some point in the future. Let's talk about Edward Gaming, because this is the big drama really of the day. What the hell is going on right now at the World Champions? And we know that Simon is gone. I mean, they kicked him out a while ago really to the bench. He wasn't very happy about it, to such a degree that they're telling him, look, hey, you need to come to our events because you're the sub. And he's like, no, I ain't going. You disrespected me. That seemed to be the implication. So basically all of these guys posted absolute essays about it, and we'll get into some of them right now. So this is what Chi-Chu said. Work is not child's play. Good results are our first priority. So if you guys missed yesterday's video, the general theory is that Simon Simon basically hasn't been trying. He wasn't putting in the effort required. So Chichu says, if there isn't a problem, why would we make a change in the roster? When you refuse to communicate during scrims or matches, have you ever thought about how much the rest of us want to win? Stop trying to smear the coaching staff on Aqua, because Simon was given his own comments on the matter, wishing everyone the best and see you in upcoming competitions. Nobody says at first when fans demanded an explanation, the org wanted to avoid having to criticize a player, but now you're turning fans onto us because, you know, Simon came out with his own statements on it, was criticizing them and, you know, basically saying, look, they told me that I wasn't working hard enough, but neither were they, and some of this stuff was happening as well. So basically all the players are unanimous in their agreement that they're not very happy with Simon's conduct here, and says that he's trying to turn the fans against them. You don't remember anything we've discussed during scrims or post-match, you don't participate in VOD reviews, you contribute nothing, and you wait for your teammates and coaching staff to tell you how to use util. Regardless of whether we win or lose, if your stats are poor, you'll say, I don't want to play anymore, swap me. That's your original words. No one wanted to bench you in the beginning. We communicated with you and said if you worked hard, you'll play again. But the first day you got benched, you said, do I not need to wake up and go to work tomorrow? You played with your phone when others are scrimming, don't say anything to the coaching team, and refuse to come to the venue. So, I mean, look, all the players are pretty unanimous in their perspective here. Even Kang, of course, decided that he was going to say the following: talent is common, only those who seize opportunities go far. And I mean, look at this, like, he just roasts the guy fully. And I mean, he must deserve it, right? Like, when all this is happening, it must be fair and justified, in my perspective anyway. It kind of would be a surprise if it isn't. Because Kang says, wasn't it during the live stream you stopped holding back what you couldn't express during, like, practices? If you'd spoken even 1/5 as much during training as you do on stream, we wouldn't have wanted to let you go. So who exactly turned you into this version of yourself? You act like we're excluding you in front of your audience, yet during practice sessions, team discussions or casual chats, you never even engage. Remember Lotus against G2? Everyone comforted you after the loss. You sat there complaining about not being able to shoot, then gave me attitude on stage when I tried to reassure you. During the game, all you said was I can't shoot and got checked out mentally. We can't win tournaments babying someone forever. We wanted to fight side by side until retirement. That's why I swore every brother must be here until we win the Grand Slam. And then he said, you know, the talent is common, those who seize opportunities, only those are the ones who go far. How many people die at 20 and regret it for a lifetime, he says. So, you know, it's all going on over there in this region, right? And even Kang went on to say something kind of interesting, that he doesn't know how much longer he's going to play. He says he's very tired. He's buried in constant insults day and night. I've played professionally for 5 years. He says he wants to win more championships in his career, so I don't think Kang's just going to call it a day. But yeah, there's certainly something going on, isn't there, right now at Edwards? And when all of this happening, it's kind of difficult to imagine how they can, you know, exactly get over this quickly and lock in to try and really win what they're trying to for the rest of the year. But who knows, maybe this is going to be a crucial factor. If Simon was holding them back for some time because, you know, just from a personality perspective, he seems to be a horrible fit for the team right now, or frankly any team on this recent evidence, then maybe this is going to be a big turning point for them in the season, because they've been up and down. Look, I'm not going to read through Smoggy's entire statement because it is an entire essay, but if you guys want to, you can more than feel free to do so. And there was also a summary of the statements that were made from EDG. And if, you know, obviously we've covered some of this stuff, but I'll just scroll through it if you guys want to pause and read as well, because, yeah, a lot going on right there in the Edward Gaming team and the Chinese region in general. They're still, of course, a big favourite to make it, but of course they've got their new player Gen.G into the roster now, and that seems to be working out rather well for them as it stands. There was a bit of a follow-up here from Real Stronglegs, who said that, you know, basically energy matters a lot, and players that have low energy, it's a contagious disease in a high-functioning team dynamic. So unless you're, like, just insanely talented, then you might get away with it, but if you're not, then it's not going to happen, basically. The other drama was around NRG. So over the last couple of days, they have been getting clowned bad, and I totally get it, right? Like, their results compared to the talent they've had has been horrific, and you can blame whoever you want at NRG, but they have put together teams over the last few years that on paper have been very strong and have just been woefully executed on. Now, that is the organization's fault on some level. You can't just blame the players, because the organization has chosen these teams and run the team in such a way that it's, you know, every single year it seemed to fail over the last few years. And even before that, they've had strong rosters that have really failed to deliver all that much. So the org definitely needs to be held accountable, as do the players, for simply performing, you know, underperforming big time. Victor did talk about it though and said, I'm seeing a ton of hate for NRG as an organization. Seems weird from my perspective. For my 2 years there, they always deliver on their promises and go above and beyond to make the team comfortable. And from a player's perspective, totally get it, right? Like, I'm sure NRG did the right things by the players, but does that create a winning team? Not necessarily. And this is what we'll see Chet say in a second, because they had the chef, of course, who was cooking them, like Philip, whatever his name was, who now cooks for Tens and Kaide, right? Like, they had the chef who was cooking for them. Content staff try their best to not let content time interfere with practice time. Manager goes out of his ways to help players deal with tedious stuff so they can focus on practice. The list goes on. They're not perfect, he says, but, you know, they're better. And they're better than people give them credit for. And well, Chet says, Org was fine. They just need someone on site to see the issues up front that isn't a player or a coach. And I think this is a very interesting piece that, yeah, on paper, NRG have done a lot of things right. But their teams maybe have a bit too much freedom on some level. Like, it seems like the org, they try and give the team everything they need and let the team kind of handle itself in terms of roster situations or internal drama or things that they've got to resolve. They just let the players and the coach figure that out themselves, rather than having, as Chet seems to imply, some sort of intermediary between the team and the management to say, look, this isn't going very well, maybe we need a bit of a more hands-on approach. Because can you trust esports players to effectively manage like their own team and their own problems and their own dynamics? I'm not sure that's necessarily a good idea. But they're getting clowned from every angle. I mean, Crashies did an interesting interview where, you know, he's on Fnatic now, of course, having a good time, and he says the vibes made it so easy to join. NRG was the complete opposite, he says. He didn't even need to say it. He wasn't even prompted to say it, but he said it anyway. And this is the clip that I actually wanted to share here, which is from Verno, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I was getting a little wild, like, after some rounds. Problem is, like, we like destroyed them so hard that I couldn't even scream like as hard as I wanted to, you know? Because, like, bro, it was just too dominant. Just like yeah.
Were you expecting it to be a closer series?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I thought they'd get less rounds. Like, maybe like, thought it'd be like 13-4, 13-3.
So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Just a couple of final things to mention. We have some scrim bucks. Team Heretics 13-7 up on Liquid. That's how that looks now. They look potentially like they're going to be back. Loud and Cloud9 were playing. That was 7-7 between those two teams. M80 were up 11-7 on Loud. So maybe M80, of course, with the change that they've made, turning a bit of a corner. And then we had Envy 8-0 up on Furia, which is, yeah, pretty rough. Let's be honest here. They were 8-0 here, and it looked like it turned out they were playing Furia, because obviously that's the former Rankers team that have been looking rather strong as of late, but Furia continue to struggle. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.